Alright, here is a tutorial on how to do the video for the podcast. So for the podcast, you're going to need the card, the video card. You're going to put it in your computer. And you need to go to your iMac, and we're going to open up Premiere. I'm kind of streamlining this down to where you can do the audio portion and the video portion in Premiere. So as this opens, it's going to ask us to save the file. So we'll need a new project. As you can see, I generally just name them by the date, and you can change this to however you want them. But when you click New Project, it's going to ask you where, and if you click Browse, it'll open up a window. Right now, I saved them on the iMac 2. Has a shared drive on the cloud, not the Google Drive cloud, but I have a shortcut to that. I don't know if this will be accessible to you. We can either put it on the network drive, the network Creative Cloud, or maybe even an external drive. Purchase one that just plugs into whatever iMac you're working on. Might make more sense. But I have them separated by years, and then as I get about 6 months into them, I'll archive them to the NAS. Anyway, so I have 2019, and I come over to June, and in there I have folders for separate dates. So I just click New Folder and actually add the current date, but since I've already done this video, we're gonna stick with one, so I would name this 616, and then inside there I add another new folder. Let's just back up, I'll do a test run of that, and I call it video, and that's where I save the file just to kind of keep it cleaner. You very rarely have to go back and access the video file. Also, I pull it straight off the card, and Premiere doesn't import the video into the file, it looks for it on the card. So if you delete the card and then try to go back and open one of these Premiere files, it'll be of no use to you. It won't be able to find the right video, or it'll find the wrong one. Things won't line up right. I only save it mainly to if there's something that needs to be fixed right away within like the first week or two. Past that, I've never had to access one. So do whatever you think. You can archive them or add the raw video footage to this in the video folder if you want, but that would require an extra step. Up to you. So let's kind of back out. So we'll go to June, and we'll go to New Folder, and just pretend we're doing this. I'm going to say June test. So you create it, and that'd be an actual date, and then you do another folder, and then do video, and then we choose. You can feel free to change this if you want. And the name, I just title it the date of the actual file, but I'll call this test date. And pretty much your default settings are fine. You go OK. Alright, and what you want to do is you'll have your either now insert the card or wait, but you're going to go to your media browser down here, and you may have to navigate to the card. Right now it's already coming up, it recognizes it from the last use. Go to private, and then it will populate all the videos, and it'll be the largest number. And you drag that right onto your timeline, and it'll kind of analyze and see what the screen resolution, what the frame rate is, and it automatically, if that's the first thing you draw, that will set your project to those parameters. So that's an important thing, is just pull that source video over, then you won't have to go change anything. From here, you can kind of go through and see what was left on there, but for your sake, and if you're doing this on a Sunday, you'll have just watched the video, so you're probably not going to watch a whole lot of the audio. But you'll kind of want to go gauge a spot, kind of scrub through this, and find where Buddy comes on stage. So that'll be the approximate place you'll want to cut this file. Okay, so right in here looks pretty good. You can either drag from the beginning over to here, or if you line up your playhead and you hit Command K, it cuts the files. You just click on that one and hit delete. You can do a ripple delete. If you click anything before here and take out the space, it moves it back over to 0, all the way to the edge. That's about the easiest way to do this. It's usually what I use. And now what we'll want to do is we'll come over to the project. Now the project, it has all our files that we're using to drag onto our timeline, and it has the 2997 frames that we pulled from the media card. The only other file we really need, unless we're blending multiple things, maybe a special video or something, we'll want to import the intro and outro. So right now the intro sits on this computer under Anthem Resources Branding Video Outro. So just click on it and go to Import, and it will show up in this window. Now every instance of this, you just take it and drag it over, stack it above, and then align that. Just gonna zoom in. Okay. So if we play through it, that's what you're looking like.
We got a huge day, all day Father's Day, so that's fun. So if you would turn with me, please, to 2 Peter chapter 2.
Okay, so I'm looking for a place that makes the most sense to start.
So if you would.
So probably that. So if you would, probably missing the word so.
So if you would.
We'll just go there, and at this point you can do the cut, or you can just grab the end of this and move it right up to your playhead. Moves it perfect. Slide this over, it'll automatically snap to where the little video clip above it ends. And what we'll want to do now is set our fade in, fade out with audio and video. So we come to effects, we're looking for video transitions and dissolve, and dip to black is kind of either the up and down from black to whatever the video is, and it goes both ways. Either goes video down or black to video. So if you just line it over the video track, it'll do a default transition time. It looks like this.
So if you would turn with me, please, to 2.
Looks good. Default's usually pretty solid. Now we need to do audio. And I do get this out of the way so you can see we do audio, crossfade, and then constant power. This is a very even, linear ramp up, so it can sound awkward.
So if you would.
What I'll do sometimes, if you come down here, you can grab this and kind of lengthen it out a bit.
If you would turn with me, please, to 2.
Okay, and that's probably fine. You can dial that in. The other way is you can actually draw it out from this line. The downside is if you ever go back and want to raise the main volume, as soon as you begin to draw, you'll need to do some other adjustments to affect the overall even volume, or you have to draw in the volume changes you want. But anyway, so we got the intro. We're happy with that. We'll go through it. At this point, what we'll do is we'll find a place in the middle. Probably not when he's praying. Whenever they pray, they generally, Chris or Buddy, speak quieter than they do when they're teaching.
Chapter 2, verse 1.
So from here, we're going to go up and we're going to click on our audio, and we're going to fix our audio. I usually go to one slot down here for the effect, and you have a couple options. We want to compress the audio so it kind of keeps it a little more even, and you can use the stock Dynamics processor or a single band or a multi-band compressor, depending if you need to know how to use those. If you don't know how to use a multi-band, single band's easy. If not, I use one of my plugins I use a lot. It's just FabFilter. Has some fancier features, but I like it as a compressor, so I put FabFilter. And the reason why I put it in slot 2 is this functions from ascending to descending. So if the audio was recorded at too low of a volume, if I try to squeeze all the volume just from the compressor, it brings up your noise floor so much that it sounds really bad. So sometimes I'll run a volume or gain boost of a few dB in this slot, and it would look like amplify, and that's just a quick, easy way you can kind of bump it up just a few dB so it hits the compressor harder, so you're not having to compress it as hard and get the noise louder, but it gets the main transients a little louder, so it just sounds cleaner in your finished product. Right now I won't use that, so I'll set it to none, but I always do that so I don't have to mess with it later. For some reason Adobe doesn't like you to drag and drop. So open up my compressor settings.
What we are launching into here is kind of the heart of 2 Peter. It's really what 2 Peter, or what Peter was going for in the second epistle. And if you remember me harping, there are two words that really stand out in Peter. They're to grow and to guard our souls. Chapter 1
so I'm
was
looking
about
over
growing,
here
and it was all
where
about
the volume's hitting,
of our salvation,
and that would be the volume before it hits the compressor. It's a little low. We're kind of aiming for around 12, maybe 12.
Has nothing to do with
And it'll be a bit under because export will be a bit louder.
And then Peter transitioned as we covered at the end of 2 Peter 1 last week.
You can see
Peter begins to
pretty
transition
loud
and to understand with
knock
him
down. But
why
here's
this
your
gospel
input
is
and here's the
validated, why
output,
it's true,
and
why
that's
it
how
is the
much
original,
volume right
how
here
it
in this
is
red is being knocked down.
authenticated,
So
and
it's
in
about
particular,
2
Peter
dB
uses
maybe.
this idea of prophecy. The scripture is in some
So
ways
that's pretty good. We're
self-validating
just shy of
because
12.
there are over 2,000 prophecies
Sounds
that
pretty
people
good. There's
believe
no
have
weird
been
sounds.
fulfilled,
So
and that no
move
other
on from
book in
that.
human history.
Next thing I do is color. If you need to color grade it, you have your basic corrections over here. It's pretty good as is. Sometimes there will be issues, but I'm going to skip that for now. Sometimes if it's overexposed or underexposed, that's one you might mess with, or the blacks or whites are a bit off. Sometimes the white, it runs a bit yellow because it incandescent lighting, so you can move it more towards a blue, it'll look a little more natural. Or you can use a selector and find. That's actually way off. There's nothing really white to shoot off of, but you can sometimes, if you have a pure white object, you can set that as your white color. After the color, you just go back to your editing window, and that's where you're going to do all your work.
Has been able to do that.
So you got good volume, sounds good, picture looks good. If there are no other issues that you need to cut out, such as somebody dropping the camera, screaming, you can pretty much scrub through till the end. And this one looks like he's praying.
Jesus in your...
Okay, so go right to it. Looks like he's ready to walk off the stage.
They could be disciples of Jesus. We pray in your name. Amen.
Right about there, give it a little extra room. From here, the video is pretty short. You can just slide it over to your playhead. It locks. If not, you can just use a playhead and do the Command K option to cut it, and then delete the piece to the right. Alright, so from here, we want to go to our media browser. No, sorry, our project window. Then we're going to drag out another instance of the outro, snap it there, and then we're going to go to effects and do the exact same thing, just from the opposite. We'll bring our audio transition over. Maybe lengthen it a bit. Listen to it. If there's music playing, that's usually your biggest issue when fading out. Whenever you put these at the end, it goes to a fade out versus a ramp up. Notice it in video transition. We'll go down to dissolve and dip to black. Default's usually just fine.
Looks
beautiful. Okay, from this point we're ready to export it, and we're going to do the video and the audio. So I usually select all just to make sure I don't have something accidentally selected where once it thinks that it's exporting just a single clip or one of the individual clips. So Command A will select all of it, and that also highlights the whole timeline. Go to File and Export Media. And a couple settings. So up here, the format is what we're working with, and I do this in opposite order each week because I just pick the one that I last left on. It doesn't really matter, but if we're doing video or MP3, we'd select this. So for MP3, say we're just doing audio first, you come down to this list, select MP3, and then the preset is the MP3 128. Totally fine. What I'll usually do is I'll come down here to the audio bitrate, and I'll select that and then take it down to 112 because it's a pretty big file at that rate. You want to make sure stereo. The codec quality for fast is fine. You can set it on high quality. It's a little bit bigger. So you got 30 megabyte high. It seems to keep it the same. Either way, it works. And right here, output name, we want to change that. We'll select that. Right now, it would default to putting it back on the card, and we don't want to do that. And that seems to have been the thing in the past. You and Kirk would do it and just export it out to the card. We want to try to keep that off of there. So important step, always check your output name. Then we'll navigate back to our June test. You can see here I have a naming structure, the date. You can start doing whatever you want, but you would come in here, and I just do it in the top level folder, nothing in the video. The video is just for the Premiere files. And I would export it, whatever, set the name that you want to do. I usually have been using one that was adopted kind of from the transition before I got here, but it's year, date, who it was, where it was, and the series. That works. So you type that in and you go to save. Cancel all of that. So it would show up here as the correct name. Audio bit rates. Now you have two options. You can export it or you can queue it. If you export it, that'll be an immediately, it'll start rendering out the file. For MP3, that's definitely what you want to do. If you queue it, it takes it to the media encoder, Premiere Media Encoder, and you can kind of line up a bunch of things. For video, sometimes I'll do that because it shows you a little more accurately how long it will take. But if you're just letting this run, I'll usually just queue it, at least for the MP3. I'll export it for the MP3 and sometimes queue it for the video. That way I can close down Premiere. The media encoder, once the file's saved, it won't need to access Premiere, so it's just a little more lighter on resources. So you go to export, and you export it out. It takes about 5 minutes, maybe a bit more. Then it will drop back down to this window when it's done. Alright, so then we'd have our audio. Then we would need to do our video. So same thing, make sure you have everything selected. You go to export media, and we will go to our codec of H.264. So that's a codec we want to use. And our preset, we're going to select that. And match source is fine, it does a good job, but for YouTube it's quite a bit bigger file, but it works a little bit better. But if we select YouTube 1080, again we're going to rename the file. So here I just name it, as you can see I named it the date and then YouTube. Mainly because when we upload it to YouTube we're going to change the name of it. Use whatever you want. That just helps me identify, oh hey, this was the version that's cut for YouTube. So I'd select my folder, name it something. Tells us our estimated file size. At this point, you're good to go. You can export, queue it, same thing. Depends what you want to do. If you export it, it takes 40 minutes maybe to be totally done. Queuing it might run a little bit faster, but then it has to open a media encoder. So that'll run, and it'll tell you percentage, and you sit there and wait. Once that's done, it'll go back to this window, and when you're done with this, you just hit the X, save changes, yes. Right now I'm going to say no because I don't need this. And you'd have the file. From there, we would need to upload it to YouTube, and I'm going to do a separate video on how to upload YouTube and the podcast.